Welcome. 5G. You look great.
I feel freaking amazing.
Hey, Finn. You ready to go tell the world they were created to heal? Okay, let's go. Welcome to the Created to Heal podcast, where we journey into the heart of holistic healing and root cause. I am your host, Jassiel. Today, my guest is someone I divinely stumbled upon this week. It was a video he created that caught my attention. He had tested the recent snow under a microscope and was revealing what he had discovered. It's shocking. Now the parasites are growing.
So I just
We worked
spun
so
it
hard to bring our parasite load down.
just a
Now we have to
little
worry about the
bit.
snow, the rain, the air.
Look at that.
This has got
So
to
this is
end.
that very same snow melt. And this container was rinsed with reverse osmosis water. There's the one shining back in UV. Made out of poly something. It's poly-based plastic. It's listed in the patent for these things. And look at that guy. Wow. As we just watch what goes around. Insane.
Again, it's been brought to the light. We have to be grateful for that. It's not just a few of us watching this and looking crazy. The whole world is watching the skies now. I reached out immediately, and I'm grateful for his response. He is here with us now, and he's here to share. Welcome, John Kaness. Hi there.
Hi.
Thank you so much for taking the time out to do this, John.
It's what I do.
Yeah, it's what we're here for, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you want to tell us how this all started?
This all started when I got very ill suddenly in 2012. Fast forward to 2020 as I dang near died. America's Mighty Warriors intercepted, and they put me one into a brain scan, and then two after showing that over 85% of my brain was shut off. They put me into a hyperbaric chamber here in Durango called Mountain Hyperbarics, and George Glass treated me for over 60 sessions of hyperbaric oxygen therapy because my brain had shut down. I was working on 15% of my brain. Everything else, all the capillaries had been closed. What they called it was toxic TBI. And I've never heard of that before. But toxic traumatic brain injury. And anyways, so 60 sessions later, I was able to drive again. I was able to talk, understand other people's emotions. There's so many things people take for granted, but I was getting all of those abilities back. And once it turned everything back on, I had some serious questions.
I'm sure you did.
What turned everything off so fast? I mean, I went from a very popular guy in a high stress job, inspecting aircraft and to unable to even drive within less than 6 months.
Wow.
That's how fast I went from just fine to not okay. The VA. So I was asking them a lot of questions, and I'll tell you, most veterans aren't going to get a lot of answers. That's what happened to me. But I was fully disabled in 2016, completely retired from aviation, and then told to go fishing while I still could.
Oh my goodness.
They said one key thing to me, and I didn't realize it as a clue, but I said, "What the hell happened to me?" And they said, "Well, your body's just too old to fight it anymore." And I heard that it? What do you mean it? They said, well, Desert Storm was an incredibly toxic theater, so they skipped over the truth again. But they had almost told me what it was. With that said, I moved to Colorado, and that was my final salute, and I'd go fishing while I still could and get things ready for my family. In the meantime, somebody brought me a brochure with America's Mighty Warriors information on it, and their what is it? It's a healing program of theirs that veterans, 100% disabled veterans who are diagnosed with PTSD, because that's how they write it up. They're not going to write it up as something else. They're just going to give it PTSD. Okay, there you go, 100%.
Sure.
That is what qualifies for helping America's Heal program. And I'm still healing, in fact. So if I pause here and there, I'm trying to remember all the details. But they've sent me for a brain scan. It was found out that I was working on about 15% of my brain, and that my organs were shutting down. I had problems with my heart, multiple problems with my heart, multiple problems with my back. I had degenerative disc disease. I had arrhythmia. I had non-valve related AFib. I had all these diagnoses that made no sense to me. So after getting the hyperbaric chamber all turned back on again, I started thinking, um, and as time went on, I felt like I was going backwards again. And I said, there must be something still going on. Um, and we were all given a vaccine. We called it the Desert Storm vaccine. In my case, they flew it on board the ship on a pallet. That vaccine caused my whole ship. We all talked about it openly. We're like lab rats or something. Well, what it turned out to be was the initial trial for what they just did to the whole world. I watched, because I was forward lookout, helmsman, and aft lookout. Those were my main positions. I watched 3 people get zipped up and airlifted off the ship the week these shots were administered. And
And
of
this was
course, no
before you
one.
landed in Desert Storm, before you got to the desert, right? That these were all given.
This is just as
That's
Desert
important.
Shield was going to become Desert Storm.
Yeah.
When the admin knew it, that's when they flew that stuff out to us, dropped it off, and said, give it to all of them. So about 350,000 of us were sent to the Gulf, all of which were given that vaccine. About 90+% of us are dead now. There are very few Desert Stormers, forward deployed Desert Stormers, I can still talk to. So it sounds very familiar to what just happened to the whole world. This caused my curiosity, and at the same time, well, there's a lot going on. After Desert Storm, I got into aircraft maintenance. I continued on in what I was doing as a double oather. I just wanted to make a difference. So I stayed in aircraft maintenance and inspection. And along the way, a lot of things occurred that really didn't hit me up front. Looking in hindsight, I should have recognized these symptoms. But in 2012, I became severely ill to where I couldn't work anymore. The VA disabled me, and long story short, let's fast forward to after the hyperbaric chamber. I'm turned back on. Everything's working, except I'm wondering why I'm going backwards. And so I start looking for other answers. And I had a clue when they said your body's too old to fight it anymore. What was I, 46? I'm like, BS.
Yeah.
I'm not too old to fight anything anymore. And what happened to all my brothers and sisters in arms? Where'd they go?
Hmm.
Um, Unfortunately, they've passed. But what I discovered in the snow starting in 2022, I was taking samples. Every single snow, rain, hail, especially the hail, is the most contaminated sample I've taken. And I originally looked at this because the snow wasn't melting right. I was worried about the Colorado River. I live at the one of the Five Fingers. But in the process of examining these snow melts, we started to see things grow in the jar, just like I originally showed you, and still can.
Hmm.
If let me get this in the camera just right, and you can see them in there under the UV light.
Wow.
Okay, and if I swirl it around, you'll see more. So, anyways, I decided, wow, I'm going to need a microscope, and I completely, I thought about it, and I said, what happens if I look into a microscope? What's going to happen to me? Well, what I was worried about happened. It changed my life.
I'm sure.
I started discovering things that don't belong in any part of this Earth's ecosystem. What you're seeing here is actual footage of what is in not just this last big storm's precipitation, but what you're seeing has been in every single sample, probably over 200, um, since Christmas of 2022, just before 2023. And around New Year's 23, I decided to go ahead and get the microscope. That matches a pattern that we were able to find.
Oh, wow.
Um, and it started to look like this was a very real concerted effort to fill people with synthetic parasites.
Yes.
These are not natural. These are lab created gain of function. We remember a certain person talking about gain of function all the time.
We sure do.
Um, so acquiring new abilities is what you would say to a layman, to normal people. So these things are acquiring new abilities. And I've been watching over the last few years as they do, and as the technology keeps evolving. It was bad enough the way it was in 2022. And when I researched all of this, some people have been suffering with what they call Morgellons for 15 years, some even 30. And 30 goes back to Desert Storm. And that's when we came home. We partied like rock stars. We were treated like rock stars. And I can tell you other things happened like rock stars. But we never knew what we were full of. That
Oh,
vaccine they had brought on the ship, it had already started the process that's happening all over the world right now.
it makes so much
To-
sense. And afterwards, they advertised as though it was what you were contaminated with in the desert, not what they had injected you guys with.
Correct, but I was never near the desert, nor was I in combat. We trained a lot. It might as well have been. Um, However, actual combat, I was never in. We were actually, it was over so fast, we got turned around while we were going full speed towards it. Um, that's it. But being forward deployed, we still got those shots just in case it lasted longer than Uncle Sam thought. Um, and I don't hate Uncle Sam. I got to get this out. Whatever they tried there, it didn't work well, and all of us are dead now. Over 91% of us aren't here anymore to tell this story. But we knew we were lab rats then. We didn't know the details. And now I'm finding that technology is now 30 years plus years more advanced. And that's what
That's right.
certain people in media were talking about when they said gain of function.
Yep.
And so now I would say at least 50% of the human race is not accepting these new vaccines well, but that's because they're not a medicine.
That's
They
right.
never were a medicine. It
That's
was
right.
never meant for medicinal purposes.
Mm-mm.
The more I look at the snow, um, the more I can tell you exactly what COVID was. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
Not to get too deep into that, but these synthetic parasites are driving an ever increasing amount of the population crazy. Not just crazy, but also with physical problems, turbo cancers, fibromyalgia,
Yes.
muscular dystrophy, all these different things. I can see in the microscope exactly how this technology can cause all that. And when I got it out of me, suddenly all of a sudden my degenerative disc disease stopped.
Hmm.
I actually grew another half inch having gotten it out of me. That's after losing 3 inches since the Navy at
Wow.
48 years old. My bone density has returned to normal. My heart functions have returned to normal. I don't take heart meds anymore.
Good for you.
And I never let anyone ablate nerves to my heart or my back. All of that was circumventing the truth about what's known as a virus. Well,
Yes.
virus and parasite can be exchanged.
Mhm.
Um, Now, these are synthetic, so treating them requires a whole different line of thinking. So you're not looking for ivermectin, you're not looking for fenbendazole, you're not looking for, and each one only treats their own class of natural parasites. But these are lab created gain of function creatures.
Since you mentioned ivermectin, because that's being pushed so heavily now, can you go into what you saw that it actually does to the synthetic parasites? Because I think this is very important.
A lot of people may not be ready for this information.
They need to know.
They might be very hurt and scared by it. So, version 1 of ivermectin acts like a fertilizer to these synthetic parasites. They recognize it. And when they're exposed to ivermectin, they immediately start growing anchor hairs and lodge in the body forever, and then grow at a faster pace. But first, they stop and grow anchor hairs. And this creates the illusion of relief because they're not crawling around anymore. So somewhere between 4 months to even a little over a year, someone might think, yeah, I cured myself. That's exactly what's not happening. Version 2 causes mutation as well. This can all be seen under the microscope. Anybody can go by our microscope and go prove this to themselves repeatedly every
Please do.
single time.
Please do.
I've already done it once. People keep asking me to redo it, but the powers that be, if I mess with them too much, I'll get deplatformed.
Yeah.
Um, I'm afraid to do it again. I have my old footage, um, but I can certainly assure anyone that you wouldn't approach a synthetic parasite or treating yourself for synthetic parasites by treating yourself for natural ones in the first place.
And that's the point. The ivermectin has worked for the natural parasites, and the fenbendazole
Correct.
has worked for the natural parasites, but we're dealing with something that is new, that I believe they knew that we would start removing the natural parasites, and they had to develop something that we would have to figure out and would be much more difficult to
Being a
figure out.
veteran, so you just nailed it on the head. Being a veteran, I'm thinking tactically. I'm thinking if I made this stuff, what would I do? And I almost took ivermectin myself, but I said, you know what? There was a little voice in my head that said, test it under microscope first.
Good for you.
Test it. Think tactically. Like if you created a beast like this, what would you do with it?
Right.
And so it turned out to be just like spraying bug spray on a robot. Nothing's going to happen except maybe a defensive response, especially a military robot. So they grow anchor hairs and they lodge themselves in the body. And the only way people can get them out is to dig them out. And that's why they have so many scars all over them and everything else. And so I had to find an alternative way. I tested the other big three. I tested the big three.
Okay.
And I'll call it 4 because of version 1 and version 2 of ivermectin. Version 2, after it was deshelved and reshelved, oh boy, that's a whole nother podcast on its own. It's even worse.
Okay.
But people have now locked these things inside their body. It's a fact of life. It's the way it is. They've been led down a certain road. All these social media advertisements. Now they're even on television, YouTube, everything. And people are forgetting the one main fact here. These are not natural parasites. And so they do react, they recognize it, they trigger, and they lodge themselves in the body, and it makes it so much harder to get out. So I had to look for something else. My dad's an electrical engineer. He helped fight the Cold War at Point Magoo. He taught me a lot about electricity growing up. And that's how I became an excellent aircraft troubleshooter, too. Aircraft with a lot of gremlins came to me, and they went back out normal. My dad taught me some things that we don't want to explain here. But understanding electrochemistry, bioelectricity, and just electricity in general, I had to search for something that wasn't going to trigger these synthetic parasites into locking themselves in the body. The only way I'm going to get them and their technology out is to literally get them and their technology out. And I found that in the form of quercetin, which is a natural product. It used to be in apple skins. They used to say an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Yep.
Well, quercetin's no longer in our growing soils. So in order to get any quercetin in us, we have to take supplements that are generally made out of onions. There's a lot of quercetin in onions too. However, it works the way it works, if you want to know right now, is to keep it simple, is it reverses the polarity of the cells around any invader. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be a synthetic parasite, a real parasite. It could be a metal sliver. It could be anything. It could be an old nail stuck in you that you stepped on and broke part of it off because it was rusty. It'll push it back out of your skin.
Amazing.
Like two opposing magnets pushing each other away. When we take them off the fridge and we put the wrong sides together, well, you're the bigger magnet, so everything else has to get out.
Right.
And that gets them out of our deep organs. It was week 2 in quercetin therapy. I knew I could stop taking my heart meds. I could feel the difference.
Wow. And when you first discovered it, I want you to tell them how you discovered it and what you were using, because that is going to help families treat their children, because it's harder to give children the capsules that quercetin, come in. But you shared about elderberry. Will you share that briefly, because that's how parents can address and treat their children?
Okay, so I have, and the most useful, fast thing to know if someone has synthetic parasites within them is a 365 UV flashlight.
Okay.
I think I got this for $25. Um, this is kind of what it looks like to the camera. And I'll just use, this is my trophy jar. Okay, right now it looks like there's nothing in it. But look,
Whoa. Because he saved these and they're growing.
okay, so just because they're invisible to the eye does not mean they're
They're
not
not
there. And they're dropping this in the sky from aircraft I used to work on. As a kid, I didn't know exactly, everything was compartmentalized. I just did my little piece on the airplane as a young mechanic and moved on. Um,
So we all have them. It's not a matter of if. We all have them, and families need to be treating their entire family. Everybody needs to be treated.
I'll just say I saw my first aerosol operational aircraft that had been converted from a mid-air refueler into what I call a spray liner in the summer of 2000 at Tucson International Airport. That's when I saw my first one. I was just a young mechanic then. Um, there it is. So this goes on between New Mexico and I'm here in southern Colorado at about 7,000 feet, looking down on New Mexico, and I have one hell of a view almost all the way to the Gulf because of the elevation difference. And this goes on behind my house all the time. And so I started taking samples of that. And what I found was truly disturbing. And this light will even show you that it's in every single square centimeter of snow. The snow will glow back, just like the sample jar. And here's the very last snow melt. See if I can get that in the camera. And we can see, there we go, what's in the bottom of this. If I spin it just a little bit, we'll see more. But you can see that. And then when I put it under microscope, so much more becomes obvious. And what becomes obvious is that the human race is under attack.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The animals on this planet are under attack.
That's right.
They're trying to infest everything with this technology. Once you aerosolize something at 60,000 feet, everything under 60,000 feet is going to be contaminated.
That's right.
As a young mechanic, I would have never believed our government or anyone else would ever do something like that to us. Well, now that all the desert stormers are dead, and we can no longer have a goat farm because all the babies come out with severe problems, if they're alive at all. Obviously, in advertising, everybody's seeing all of these get rid of your parasites ads. Let's just say for the last 4 or 5 years, nonstop, solid, whether it's social media or whatever you're watching, even Fox News now, in between is something about, and there's 20 doctors lined up and they're all saying, take ivermectin. I have that stuff right over here. I don't touch it.
Yeah.
After looking in the microscope at 12, 24-hour, 48-hour, and 72-hour periods, I decided, oh my God, this is the biggest scam ever. And so what I ended up finding, just to shorten this up a bit, was quercetin. It's just that simple with a little zinc in it. Just in case you have natural parasites in you, it'll push either one out. It just pushes any foreign body out of your body. Electrically, it works like that very gently, and it doesn't trigger them. So they'll come to the surface of the skin. And then any good salt. So, along with quercetin therapy and taking quercetin every day,
Mm-hmm.
goes hand in hand with salt baths because it's an electrolyte, because it mimics our blood plasma, which is what these synthetic parasites are looking for.
Wow.
It's that dark. And so, by surrounding yourself with a bath full of what's nearly blood plasma, they are willing to then come out of the skin and into that water, and oops, they have been tricked.
Excellent. How much salt and what type of salt are you using?
And so down the drain they go. Well, I started out with bath salts. That did get expensive, taking baths every day, sometimes up to 3 times a day is how fast these things were coming out of me. And I needed to find a solution. Not everybody is, just sitting there with a money tree next to them. And you got to make, your bang for your buck. And so what we found out is that canning salts
Okay.
and kosher salt,
Okay.
just you can get it at Vaughn's or anywhere. Our grocery store is called the grocery store. I can get it there for half the price of bath salts at Dollar General. Anyways, both work very well. There's a lot of arguments about what brand did you get this way, what kind, no, just get salt.
Okay.
It can come from anywhere. The kind you don't want is anything preformed. So you don't want salt for your water softener, and
Okay.
you don't want salt lick bricks for your animal. Those are heavily infested, and I'll be showing that on my page soon.
Thank you.
However, if it's just base salt as mine, I always scan my salt before I put it in the bath to make sure it itself isn't contaminated. I've had 0 problems with canning or kosher salt of any brand so far.
Okay.
And it's half the price of bath salts, and it works great. And another advantage to that is you can tell when your bath's ready because it'll taste like tears. Because
Okay.
we're mimicking our own blood plasma to attract them to it. And that's what those things are after.
Wow. That's
Adding,
smart. Okay.
adding a little borax to the bath. Borax is sodium, boron, and oxygen. And so it oxygenates the water and makes it even more like our blood plasma.
Okay.
And so that's sort of a way to tune it and make your bath a little more productive, and even more will come out to flush down the drain.
Okay. Where they belong. And do you ever use baking soda?
So now we're finding out they're seeding clouds with graphene oxide.
Okay.
Sadly, the human body and graphene oxide, dogs' paws and graphene oxide, they don't mix. Graphene oxide has the way to get it off, the way to prove it is to use the backside of a magnet and just go rub it on your driveway or the sidewalk or anywhere else you walk your dog. And it'll come up on the backside of the magnet.
Okay.
Not the side you would normally stick to your fridge. I have a tool I made out of a fridge advertisement, and it's not that side it sticks to, it's the other side.
Okay.
And you can see that. Anyways, in the bath, we can get that out by adding, just sprinkle up and down the length of the bath, baking soda. I also get a large box of it, but I can use it about 50 times. And What you'll notice is a black ring at the high water line. Because graphene oxide is so light, we're not talking about a heavy metal now. We're talking about a very light metal, much lighter than aluminum. So it floats on top of the water, but it sticks to the bath because most bathtubs are just porcelain painted steel.
Wow.
And so it sticks to that. And you'll see that ring after you drain the tub. But it does draw it back out of our pores. And that's the thing. All of this stuff is meant to be so small that it just falls in our pores like a skydiver into a volcano.
Yep. And we can
Just
do
like,
this with our pets too. I've been seeing even a pet version of the Quercetin when I started looking for it after speaking with you. A lot of
yes.
people are asking me how to help their pets. Wow. Okay.
So to help pets, obviously they're not gonna lay in a salt bath as long as us, and watch a movie, and just let things happen. That they do want to get out. And so mixing kosher salt with uh, coconut oil,
Mm,
and you can put that all over your dog and just have this much of your bath filled.
mm.
Um,
Okay.
and use a cup and pour the salt water all over them. But once you put that on, they can shake all they want, but it's not coming off, and it still draws the parasites out. And then later you can take a shower head or whatever, just like yourself, and shower them off, and you'll see it all with the black light in the bottom
Excellent.
of the tub,
Okay.
ready to go down the drain.
Excellent. Wow.
One of my two dogs suffers with it pretty bad. Um, but we keep her okay, treating her just the same as a human without the zinc.
That's right. You did remind me of that. No zinc for the animals.
Correct. I
Okay.
do put quercetin in their food, but it's pure quercetin.
Okay. Well, wow, this has been so informative. And John, is there anything that you can think of that you would want to add that you haven't yet?
So a lot of people have discovered this over the years. There's an ever growing group now, especially since last November. All of the Morgellons groups
Mhm.
um, have grown dramatically. Obviously, they are dropping a lot now.
Thank goodness.
People who just watched this last storm go by, they found snow that didn't look like snow. It looked like glass shards. That was just kind of white. I mean, people really noticed, and the amount of awareness went way up. So geoengineering groups and Morgellons groups immediately doubled or tripled in size. And what that's telling us is that they're going at it ever harder.
Yes.
They're going at it so hard they don't even care if we notice anymore. And with that said, it's very imperative that the community comes together, um, and understands the most important thing of all is that these are synthetic parasites, and stop treating them like natural parasites, because we will forever miss those people soon.
Yes.
Um, they can get themselves back to health. There are options. I post it quite regularly. And this community needs to know, one, that they're not crazy. No matter whatever, any doctor, for a long time, doctors would just tell people they're crazy when they would go ask them, "What are these fibers in my skin?" The doctor would say, "You're crazy. Go see a mental health professional."
Yes.
Okay, that was a diversion. They're ordered not to tell you the truth.
That's right.
And so that's why I had to find all this for myself. You should have seen the song and dance my own doctor did. I'm not going to mention her by name or go any of that. However, her and I have an understanding now that I will not be accepting any needles in my body, not even for regular lab work.
Good.
Nanotech, I've already let her know that I have 4 microscopes and that I'm well aware of what nanotech does to people. And I have very few brothers in arms left to talk to, maybe 5. Um, and her and I agreed we just wouldn't talk about that. And she asked, "Is there anything you do need or want?" And so we're at that point now.
Excellent. We need
People,
that relationship with them because so many of them are becoming aware and need that. Some of them have reached out to me, so they want that relationship. They know. Yeah.
their doctors have made them very insecure. They've been afraid to speak out. And if there's
Mhm.
anything I can say or do to influence the community, it is to speak out.
Yes.
Get
It's
your
time.
microscope, get your proof, post it, speak out, put these people in their place. Whoever is responsible for this needs, how does the Bible call it? To
Darkness
be
is
on
being
the
brought.
world stage.
Yes, yes. Well, it is.
This needs to be shown.
As it's shown in the light, darkness can't exist, and the light gets brighter the more of us who are speaking.
I don't like to mix religion and science at the same time, but that's the only way I know how to explain it. These people need to be held accountable. Um, Whether we think we know who it might be or not, that's an investigation to be had. However, it is very real. It's happening. Anyone can prove it to themselves with a microscope or a UV light. It's so easy. Actually, it's hard to believe it was missed for so long.
Right,
And that's usually where things are best hidden, is right under people's nose.
right.
Um, but people gotta get together. They gotta make some noise,
That's right.
because as long as it stays secret and people stay silent and afraid, that is where trouble lives the best. Parasites live in stealth. Stealth is their whole life. Once they're exposed, it's over.
Yeah,
And these people who have created them, they are parasites. And once they're exposed, it's over. So everybody needs to get together, get their microscopes, get their proof, and sound off.
that's right. That's right. Let's go.
Because who are we going to talk to? These things are killing people left and right. Doctors are giving them strange names. They're coding things. Um, and in fact, it's just these destroying, interrupting signals between the brains, people's brains and their organs, and causing things to fail.
Mhm, mhm.
Stealing their energy, and in fact, giving away their personal information. One way to know if you have these is if your phone reads your mind or knows when you wake up before you ever touch it. That's a good indication that
Yeah.
you're infested.
Okay.
And that connection to your phone can be broken. It's just a matter of getting them out.
Being consistent with this treatment, and I know I'm going to get busy. I instinctively, I think I told you, I have been drinking hibiscus tea a few times a day. I didn't even realize that it has quercetin naturally in it, just like you shared with the elderberry, the same thing. And I
Yes.
think so many of us are just naturally being drawn to what our body needs right now. But I need to get proactive with the baths. So thank you for that. Wow.
And it really is that simple. I see what a lot of people are doing online, and if they wrote it out, it would be like 7 pages.
Mhm.
It's really this simple, take quercetin, take your salt baths. Yes, you might have to commit for 5 weeks. It is itchy, but when you're done, you're so proud of yourself. When your phone no longer knows what you're doing until you grab it, you're so proud of yourself. The rewards greatly outweigh the inconvenience of itching.
I know, John, firsthand. I did parasite cleansing 8 years ago and removed the non-synthetic parasites from my body, a lifetime worth. And I haven't been sick since then. It changed my life. And that's why I speak and share. And I told you about my dreams years ago. All of it ties into now. That's why we're here. That's why we have to do what we do. So
In
thank
fact,
you.
and that's why I went public.
Ugh,
I couldn't do it anymore. The groups were keeping me down for whatever reason. I seem to get more censored by the groups than any of my previous posts on my own page where I tried to warn my friends.
they were fighting against you, and I really think it's the ivermectin topic because I get attacked anytime I talk negative about it as well. And
Well, those people won't be around to attack you anymore very long.
it's so sad. And, the ivermectin, what is useful, and I've seen people with stage 4 cancer use it and beat their cancer. I think if you're going to use it, it needs to be used temporarily. But now that we're dealing with these synthetic parasites, we do need to shift treatment.
Well, we do need to treat for synthetic parasites first. Then, once we know we're no longer attached to our phone, once we know that they're no longer coming out in the bath and we can see with our light that they're not in there,
Yep.
that's probably the time to go after
Good
natural
plan. Good
parasites.
plan. That makes a lot of sense. Yes.
Then ivermectin, but ivermectin's only one class. So you want to take this carefully. Do one thing at a time, because if you do 10 things at a time, which one are you going to either blame or credit for either getting worse or better?
That's right.
So we
That's
just
right.
need to go one at a time, take our patience, don't panic. That's the number one instruction anyone under oath will tell you to stay alive is first, don't panic. Second, methodically get yourself out of this situation you're in. And so,
Oh, John.
that's what I can encourage people to do. But definitely you know, get their microscopes. I mean, it's this simple. Okay, here it is, just plugged into my phone. It comes in with a plug to any Apple phone, any product, any phone
Can you
product,
drop a link in your Facebook so people can order that and know
and that
exactly what kind of equipment to get?
and that little puppy's about $25. And then same with this 30-watt UV light that's rechargeable. It's about $30, maybe 20.
Everybody needs to make this investment and start being proactive with
And
their research and their health.
and you can literally prove that these things are already in your brand new born baby.
So heartbreaking. John,
Uh,
John,
and
thank
that's
you.
that's why Desert Storm. The VA called my son a Desert Storm son.
Hmm.
Called him a Gulf War son. What they didn't tell me was the truth. They could have just said he's filled with nanotech and that's why he's autistic. And that it came from you, sir, because we dosed you with it directly. They could have. It took years and years to figure out what his issue is. And thank God he's grown out of it. And he's really the best kid
Wow.
he now, okay, young people, they really don't like to listen to their elders much anymore. And certainly nobody encourages them to. But as of this week, he has started taking his quercetin every day.
He's going to be a warrior for truth for this next generation. We need the young people speaking out about this stuff.
And that's the whole thing. People need to get their microscopes and first need to prove it to themselves, and then they need to prove it to the world
That's right.
and prove it to these parasites creating this technology. And we need to have them held accountable. They've
Thank you
already
for paving the
invested,
path. You're paving the path for this. So thank you.
and that's the only way it's going to stop, because as long as the issue stays in the shadows,
Yeah,
the sky is going to continue to rain synthetic parasites that go right into our pores and then grow.
that's right.
It's
Okay. Okay.
and
Well,
pray for wisdom, pray for strength. Um, being a second chancer, I look at life a little differently than I did my first time. And I will say that I'm probably not still here for no reason.
Mm.
And this may be the reason I am still here,
It is. I
to get
believe
this
that.
message out.
I
I
believe
believe I'm here for something.
you are. You are. And I'm
And
so
that's why I
grateful.
went public.
I'm so grateful I ran across you and your work, and I know it was divine. I know that, and I knew that the second I found it, and I found you. So thank you, John. Let's wrap this up. I do feel like you have given humanity what will save so many lives. So you are a hero, and I thank you. And God bless you and your work as you move forward. And all right, I'm a little emotional.
I am too. Um,
Yeah,
I
especially
can't even start this conversation without emotion. Um,
hearing.
and people should be ready for that when they look in their microscopes. However, it is that real.
All right.